Welcome to the other side of change, only on the Black Star Network. As usual, I'm Brea Baker here with my brilliant and beautiful co-host, Jamira Burley. And today we are talking all about HBCUs, their power, their history, but also the recent attacks from the Trump administration and how a billionaire named MacKenzie Scott is stepping up in a major way to fund these institutions.
That's right. The ex-wife of Jeff Bezos is putting her wallet where her mouth is and has donated to over 60 HBCUs this year, giving a loan surpassing $700 million. MacKenzie Scott philanthropy couldn't be coming at a better time, and we're going to explain why. But first, let's get into the headlines.
So, starting off strong with a little positive headline, Time's 2025 Athlete of the Year is none other than WNBA superstar A'ja Wilson. Now, for me,
Okay.
WNBA fan, I love me some A'ja Wilson. I mean, she has literally, and she talks about this in the interview too. She's like on her Thanos right now. She has gotten everything this year. She was the league MVP. Then she made it to the finals and won a championship with her team, where she was also named the finals MVP. She was Defensive Player of the Year. Now she's Times Athlete of the Year, AP's Female Athlete of the Year. I mean, she is just like snatching up infinity stones everywhere. But like, truly, it's not that she's overhyped in any way. She just works so damn hard, is so gifted and talented. And I just love to see a Black woman shine, especially because in recent years, people like to believe that the WNBA is only popping because of a white woman named Caitlin Clark. But Black women have been keeping this league afloat, been proving what women can do on the court, and A'ja Wilson is proof because she just dominates this game so heavily. So I love seeing her being amplified in this way. So shout out to A'ja Wilson.
No, shout out to A'ja Wilson. Like, that is such a phenomenal honor, and I'm happy that it's finally being she was always Athlete of the Year, and now the world is recognizing her. Yeah. Times is recognizing her as Athlete of the Year. Yeah. And I think it sends a really good message, especially at a time where it feels like Black women and the stories of Black women are being pushed out of mainstream media, are being pushed out of industries, not being given the representation and the recognition for all of the hard work and dedication that we've put into this work. Yeah. Especially at a time when that hundreds of thousands of Black women have been laid off this year. It's good to see her being honored, and what this signals to, I think, for a lot of women, particularly Black women, that, it may not come when you think it's going to come, but the recognition will come when you least expect it. And hopefully that will enable for a lot of women to kind of find the motivation to continue on, especially at a time where it feels like we're constantly under attack. So super excited for her and all the little Black girls who are thinking now that basketball, there's a future for them in basketball.
Period. Yeah. Yes. Love to see that. Love to see her giving flowers.
I should have channeled your positive energy, but unfortunately there's not that much positive. There's not that much.
I was about to say that might have been it.
At all. And I tried. Millions of borrowers under the Biden Save Plan would start paying under this new settlement. Unfortunately, due to the dismantling of the Department of Education, the Department of Education, what is currently still left around, has announced on Tuesday that it has reached a proposal settlement agreement to end the popular yet controversial Biden-era student loan repayment plan. The Saving on Valuable Education Plan, better known as SAVE, was the most flexible and generous of all income-driven repayment programs, promising expedited loan forgiveness and monthly payments as low as $0, especially for those who are working in industries that do not nearly make as much to survive, as well as then contribute to their student loans and or were unemployed. And now those payment programs are going to come back, and they're going to come back with a force. Hundreds of borrowers will now have to pay hundreds of dollars a month, when before they had payments as low as $0 because of the affordability. And this is just a prime example that, out of there are 7 million borrowers across the United States, red, blue, green states, right? And yet the Trump administration is still looking for ways to punish those who saw higher education as a way to not only improve themselves, improve the conditions of their community, but also put America in the good foot. Instead, are going to punish those folks. And this is happening at the same time when the Trump administration is also giving loan forgiveness or student loan forgiveness to ICE workers, up to $60,000 of loan forgiveness. So never fail. The Trump administration will figure out a new way to be cruel and unusually disgusting to other Americans.
Yeah, that's always that, that Tupac line of you ain't got money. They got money for wars, but not to feed the poor. They have money
Mhm.
to terrorize your communities. They have money for ICE. They have money for deportations. They have money for his ballroom. They don't have money for working class Americans and people who are trying to climb this ladder out of economic precarity and poverty.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so infuriating. It's so infuriating. And also because they'll turn around and call what Biden tried to do socialism, but then
Mhm.
he'll leverage that as a perk for people who are going to be his foot soldiers. So
That
really,
part. Socialism already exists in America. They just give it to rich people. And now they're giving it to racists.
mhm.
Gotta love it.
Say that. Say that. This, yeah. Well, speaking of Trump's BS, Trump's birthday has become a free national park day, just as he has removed MLK Day and
Wow.
Juneteenth. And so that is another example of Trump kind of like having his way and just
Mhm.
playing Tetris with our politics and really trying to assert and deify himself, even as he strips Black people and Black America of opportunities to celebrate our history.
Yeah.
And Juneteenth and MLK Day are celebrating civil rights legends and celebrating pursuits of emancipation. Trump's birthday is this is such vanity politics, of course.
Mhm.
Um, but it is the new policy. So you have free entry on his birthday, not on the federal holiday of MLK Day or Juneteenth.
You know what's so crazy is that Trump is, I think, when you look at the core of the vast majority of the decisions he's made, especially like the most vanity of vanity policies, it really triggers or it highlights his insecurities, right? His need to
Yes.
feel liked, his need to feel celebrated, especially when people don't want to celebrate him. So God
Yeah.
forbid there are any other holidays or any other individuals that are being celebrated in ways that he could never imagine because he's just not likable. And so
Mhm.
to take that away, I can get maybe like adding another day, right? Giving yourself the day, but to take it away from MLK Day, a day of service,
Mhm.
a day where the entire
Mhm.
country is using this moment to give back to community is so reminiscent of who Trump is, right? Like he does not
Yeah.
care about the vast majority of people. It's about honoring himself, uplifting and enriching himself and his cronies to the detriment of everyone else. And mind you, these are the same national parks that he's working constantly to defund and to ship
Yep.
off and to the highest bidder.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a special place for him somewhere in the ethos. In regards to my final headline of this episode,
Hit us with it.
the Heritage Foundation, Trump's, closest allies in the U.S., the Heritage Foundation, which is mostly well known right now for releasing Project 2025, that came out a year ago, that highlighted the conservative movement efforts to dismantle the U.S. government and provide more power to the Republican Party by any means necessary, using Donald Trump as the anointed leader for that work. But really, anyone could have fit the bill. They have now released their quote unquote priorities for 2026. Many people are dubbing this Project 2026 or Project 2025. Point two. And what they have done as released in this in their statement, in their report, the foundation has shifted the heritage focus to 2.0, focusing on four cornerstones: the American family, the dignity of work, the future of free enterprise, and the national security and the American heritage and citizens. Is their four cornerstone efforts for 2026. And most of this gears towards exactly what we think it is, right? Continuing to tighten immigration laws, preventing folks from coming in through the border, despite the fact that we are the ones destabilizing many of these countries that force immigrants to come into the US. They also want to continue to look for ways to shrink the middle class and suck more money out of social services that will provide true dignity to Americans who are facing hard times. And, it's very easy to brush this off as just some think tank in DC's list of priorities or list of desirables. But really, we've already seen so much of Project 25 be implemented by the Trump administration, be be championed by the Trump administration. There's so many writers and authors of Project 25 that are now working within the Trump administration. And so there is a need for us to be very fearful of these policies and these tactics, especially when it feels like the Democratic Party doesn't have their own like set of agenda items and don't have a clear message for the American people to get behind, which is why for me, and I know for a lot of folks, it feels very frustrating that the Democratic Party seems very fractured at a time where we need them to come together.
Yeah, incredibly fractured. And as you said, not imaginative. You know, I think that there's still too many Democrats who are running for office on the you know, claim that they are not Trump, they are anti-Trump. And while it is important to have people who are willing to resist and be like, you know, the last line of defense against Trump's antics, we also need our own vision of what we're working towards. Like, it's not enough to just be against Trump, because if we get him out of office and we have no vision, the Republicans are just going to keep ramming down their vision. Like, and as you see, like the architects of Project 2025 were aligning that agenda with Trump, but they would have pushed that onto whatever Republican they could get into office, and they will, you know, when they need to let Trump go. And I think we need to be very vigilant of playing defense so much that we have no offensive game. We need to convince Americans that we have something that is worth fighting for, not just against.
And that's what it feels like, right? There's no, we lack so much imagination. And I know imagination oftentimes is a privilege, right? The ability to dream bigger than what's in front of you. But dreaming is what we have to do if we want people to feel like something else is possible than what we've experienced over the last year, because that's what it is. It's just been a year. And the fact that so much to your point is around offense doesn't encourage the average American who is sitting home on their couch, right? Especially if for the last 10 years, they haven't felt their lives have shifted. And I think we need to give people something to fight for, something to imagine it's possible. And that means we have to dream outside of the traditional confines that our party lines have drawn in previous years, right? That must mean that maybe we need to rethink how we engage in receiving corporate dollars or corporate foundational dollars, right? Like, maybe we need to think about taking money out of politics to enable for that imagination. Maybe we need to think about term limits. Maybe we need to think about a host of other things, doubling down on state work, right? Like, because that's oftentimes the first line of defense before the federal government. But I'm hopeful in many ways and not hopeful in others. But 2026 is going to be a year to remember. It's also the 250th anniversary of the United States. So a lot is at stake, to say the least. But we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. You're watching On the Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. We've all heard the names Howard, Spelman, Morehouse, Hampton, but there are over 100 historical Black colleges and universities nationwide, founded before 1964 Civil Rights Act, and even more before slavery was abolished. This was a line when educational opportunities for Black students were extremely limited, under-resourced, and highly politicized. These universities were established to fill the gap for decades, and decades later, they are still doing that. From homecoming seasons to their incredible roster of alumni, HBCUs have and continue to shape the culture. And I know for you, Brea, we both probably at one point before we went to college thought about attending an HBCU, and I wish that I did at times, because I just see the culture that my friends are a part of, right? The legacy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely. See, now what's interesting for me is that I always wanted to go to Yale. And then once I got there, I was like, ooh, this is so not all that it's cracked up to be. And then both of my sisters went to HBCUs. My sister Brooke went to Howard. My sister Blair went to Hampton, and seeing their experiences and how affirming it was to be surrounded, not just by other Black students, because I think that people mostly think of that aspect of being at an HBCU, Greek life and homecoming and being a part of like that element of the culture and the parties, but it's also having Black faculty, Black staff, Black administrators, going into a classroom and not having to defend or prove that you deserve to be there, having Black political thought be centered, having Black history not be an elective, like all of that being just very normalized was something that I really wish that I had gotten a benefit from, especially having gone to college during the Black Lives Matter movement. There were so many moments where I felt like I was fighting against my university, where my sisters weren't in that same way. Yeah. And so that's when I first got to realize that HBCUs are cultural hubs. They are safe havens for Black young people. They're incubators for Black thought. So many revolutionaries and Black artists and activists come from HBCUs. So it's not a surprise that in a country built around anti-Blackness, these schools would face hostility and underinvestment, because why would America want to make sure that Black young people have access to such empowering environments? These HBCUs have always been fighting for their place in academia. But in the last couple of years, things have gotten really, really ugly. In 2022, there was a wave of bomb threats that hit, I believe, almost 60 different HBCU campuses, spreading fear of how far white supremacists would go to reclaim their vision for America. This was the year after January 6th. This was after tiki torches in Charlottesville, and there was just like this uptick in violence by white racists, and they were really targeting HBCUs. Then in 2023, federal officials revealed that 16 states have been underfunding their HBCUs by nearly $12 billion. It's been a longstanding issue that HBCUs have had to close or lose their accreditation because they didn't have the funding, that students have not been able to continue their education because there wasn't enough financial aid, that buildings have been crumbling, and that there's just not been enough infrastructure to build out, STEM labs and all of the sort of equipment and technology and opportunities that you need to really establish a department. Come to find out, it's because these states are withholding that funding and giving it to white institutions. That's 2023. Now we're in 2025. There have been terroristic threats all year, leading to HBCUs having to cancel classes, close off their campuses to protect students, staff, and faculty.
Yeah, and some of those most recent threats spiked following the death of Charlie Kirk, which we've discussed on this show, even though Black students and HBCUs in particularly had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's murder, proving that we always bear the blunt of racist rage. Our people and our institutions have long been under attack and will take significant investments. We have to take significant investments in our safety, joy, and right to exist in academia for that to change.
Yeah. We got work to do. Now enter MacKenzie Scott. MacKenzie Scott is a philanthropist, the billionaire ex-wife of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. Boo to him. But she has recently been making headlines for her significant giving to HBCUs over the last few years. And while her ex-husband is trash and scum of the earth, she has been really proving that she left for a reason, and that she was, She was like, I'm getting away from that sinking ship. Now, here's a fun fact that I didn't know until recently. Long before she met her ex-husband, MacKenzie Scott was taught and mentored by the Toni Morrison, writer and editor extraordinaire, notable Howard alumna. MacKenzie Scott had the privilege of taking a creative writing course that was taught by Morrison at Princeton, and the two built a really beautiful relationship. Morrison praised MacKenzie Scott's writing talents. And I mean, it's hard to know, but perhaps it was that relationship that inspired those gifts. I don't know. But whatever it is, and whoever it was that motivated MacKenzie Scott, thank you, because she has been doing the damn thing.
Yeah, and not in small amounts, right? MacKenzie Scott has made some of the largest donations in HBCU history and across more than 60 different universities, as I mentioned earlier. This is especially significant because the dollars that end up go donated to HBCU more than ever towards more famous and well-known colleges. But really, she has focused on some of the most mid-size and oftentimes less recognizable HBCU names. $5 million went to Dillard University in New Orleans. $20 million went to Lincoln University, the second oldest HBCU. $53 million went to Clark Atlanta University. $75 million went to Bowie University. And a whopping $120 million went to Howard University, where Toni Morrison graduated. These are just only a handful of HBCUs that she has given to over the past 5 years, with a total donation of $1 billion. That is beyond significant and will have generational implications.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just blown away. First of all, to have enough money to give that away is its own.
Still stay a billionaire at the same time.
Right, exactly. And to still be a billionaire. So, I mean, that's also sparking conversation. It's like, I mean, she's literally giving away hundreds of millions of dollars at a time. And it's like she can't give her money away fast enough. But I mean, I'm grateful that she is. She also made a $70 million donation to the United Negro College Fund's endowment, which serves other HBCUs like Fisk, home of John Lewis, and dozens of others. So this is just what I love to see. I mean, like, I don't love to see billionaires in general, but if we are going to have white billionaires, we need them proving their allyship and solidarity in these ways. And it's interesting too, because this is also somewhat connected to the legacy and history of HBCUs. The benevolence of white people is how a lot of HBCUs came to be in the first place. So in many ways, what MacKenzie Scott is doing is continuing in that tradition. You know, many HBCUs like Howard, Spelman, and Cheney were founded or co-founded by white people, and even more are named after white people like Morehouse, Xavier, and Jackson State. That has been something that has caused some critique in recent years, but I mean, even beyond, like, nearly all HBCUs were made possible in some way through deep donor drives amongst white abolitionists and sympathizers. So, you know, we can have our critique about our HBCUs truly Black owned and led, but regardless, you know, the money that they get from white people and white folks and institutions has been leveraged towards, you know, a century plus later serving Black students.
Yeah, and you know, because I have never graduated from an HBCU, I feel like I only have so much I can say, right? Like, but what I will say is that it's interesting that there's discrepancy around like the naming of these HBCUs, considering the fact that all of our names, right, are slave names. Like they're names that were never were taken from our home and given names that were not ours. So I think that's something to consider as we think about this. But yes, history is really important to be transparent, right? And how we've gotten to this point. Especially because in some instances, it meant that Black students and faculty have not had full autonomy to lead their universities without centering whiteness and white ideas, which is why I think the MacKenzie donations are that much more significant, because she's leaning heavily into the unrestricted giving, allowing each institution to decide how best to use that money, and often, especially in the best interest of their students and faculty.
Yeah. So I mean, that autonomy is so key. I mean, what she's doing is making sure that these institutions get the resources that they need and deserve, but that they also have the agency to decide how to use those resources. Because when we are in control, we get to steer our own legacies and our destinies, which is more important now than ever. And when we come back from the break, we're going to hear from a very special someone, an HBCU graduate, about how we can all do our part. So again, you are watching The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, of course, only on the Black Star Network. Today is super, super special. Before the break, we dug into the history of HBCUs, the reality of how underfunded many of these storied institutions are, and why MacKenzie Scott's record-setting donations are so important in this moment. To dive deeper into this conversation, we have a very, very, very special guest here with us, my sister, Brooke Baker. She is a highly motivated communications and media relations expert, as well as a multidisciplinary artivist with nearly a decade of experience leading high-impact advocacy communication. Brooke earned her bachelor's degree in communications and marketing with an Africana Studies minor from the Howard University, HU. In addition to her communications work, Brooke is the founder of Shop Yabo, a clothing brand rooted in creative expression, identity, and bold storytelling. And I can't wait to hear more from Brooke about her Howard experience and what she thinks about these recent donations. Welcome to the show, sissy.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, especially represent my HBCU.
Yes. Is this the original HU?
HU?
Now listen, don't start it up because my other sister went to Hampton, so they argue about that. Who's the real HU all the time?
Oh, I love to bring it up as soon as I meet somebody who went to Howard or Hampton. I'm like, are you the original HU?
You already know. We're not high. We're not the institute. We are HU, the first and the one, only one.
Of course, I'll let our listeners decide in the comments. But tell us about your HBCU experience. Like, why did you choose to attend one? And like, do you think your experience uniquely has put you on a pathway for the type of work you want to do now?
Yeah. So thank you so much for that question. So my HBCU experience was really, truly life-changing for me. It wasn't something that I originally saw in my path. I originally thought I was going to go to Ivy League schools, and HBCUs was just a part of my portfolio of applications that I was doing while I was applying for college. And I ended up getting a full ride to Howard University. And that really just changed my whole trajectory when I went to Howard. My HBCU experience was truly life-changing and really remains one of the most formative chapters of my life. I chose to attend an HBCU because I wanted to be in a space where my identity wasn't something that I had to explain or defend. It was really centered, celebrated, and understood in this space, even beyond capacities that I even really understood before I went to Howard. I really wanted to My initial objective was to really learn in an environment built on legacy, resilience, and Black excellence, and where I could see myself reflected in my professors, my mentors, my peers, and the opportunities presented for myself. Yeah. And at my HBCU, I didn't really just gain academic knowledge. I really gained confidence, discipline, community, and purpose. Yeah. I was challenged intellectually while also being nurtured emotionally and culturally, which was really important to me. I learned leadership by watching it modeled daily. I learned pride in my history and in my future. the relationships I built there, the lessons that I learned, and the way that I began to see myself as a leader and change maker really all stem from that experience from attending Howard University. And HBCU doesn't just prepare you for a career, it really does prepare you for life, and also kind of also you gain a new family as well when coming into this work.
I mean, I was this close to going to Howard, and every day I think I regret it when I meet someone from Howard who is just like so proud of like the legacy, the experience, and then seeing the relationships that they've maintained throughout the year. So thank you for sharing.
And you need to come through the Howard homecoming. And we also have the best.
I don't know. I've seen y'all turn up. I don't think my knees, these 30-year-old knees, could take it, you know?
Listen, no, we gotta get information. I haven't been to a Howard homecoming since Brooke, basically since I was visiting Brooke when she was a student. Oh, wow. And I was like, oh, Yale ain't giving it up nowhere near. Like I just remember just feeling so jealous and being like, oh, I want what she has. But with that said, there are also challenges that HBCUs have been facing. We talked earlier about HBCUs being underfunded. We've talked about like terroristic attacks and white supremacist attacks, but there's so many more. And I imagine that you have greater insight into that. So with all this in mind, what would you say are the most pressing needs that HBCUs have in the 21st century?
Yeah, I think especially in today's climate there's a wide plethora of like what our youth needs right now. I think that when I was especially attending Howard University, to me, one of the things that really stood out to me was the need for better security. When I was in school, there were a lot of instances where our co-ed dorms, the security within our dorms was mishandled, was handled improperly, to where we would have folks who were unhoused who were sneaking into our buildings. And they were even able to access some of our rooms because of the way that our doors would work. Sometimes our doors wouldn't lock properly. So like there was an instance where there was an unfortunate case where a young student was actually assaulted in her sleep, in her bed, by a person who was facing both mental challenges and also was unhoused during that time period, and would kind of go and had the opportunity. They also had a connection, I think, to someone within the university where they had the connection to be able to go to people's dorms. They had that person's security key and they could come in and be able to kind of like literally attack students in the middle of the night while they're asleep, or at the very least be able to access their rooms when they were gone and be able to take things from their rooms that perhaps they needed in that time period. And I think that was very scary for us. Me and myself, we had that experience where me and my roommate was one time in our room and someone just opened and we saw a grown person come into our room and open the door. And when they saw us, you could tell it was the shock factor and they just kind of left. And that was for when I was here, you know. I think that like, especially now, we do need to do a better job at protecting our youth. I think especially like what's going on with white supremacists, inherently targeting our youth to have these quote unquote safe spaces for free conversation, which is really just clickbait and just to have kind of age-old conversations that we know the answers to, we know what we need, and we don't need to be questioned in these space. We don't need to be questioned at our HBCUs about our liberation, about our education, about our choices. And I think that that's really inherently. But I think that all of these issues, right? All of these issues, I think, are all tied to one main thing, and which is HBCUs need sustainable, flexible funding.
Yep. Not
just one-time gifts, but really long-term investments that really allow for strategic growth in the protection of our youth, the security of our youth, the advancement and the liberation of our youth. And I think that this really includes, and these young scholars, I should really say as well, this really includes resources. I think through this funding would provide resources to modernize campus infrastructure, invest in cutting edge technologies, security, expand research opportunities, and also strengthen student support services like mental health, career development, and academic advising. That was also something, I remember going through when I was at Howard University was, oh gosh, when it's time for me to set up my classes for the school year, or when I need to go through some financial funding, I know it's going to be a week-long process of me being in constant lines and constant runarounds and constant, oh, this actually isn't the person you need to see. You actually had to go to the building around the way, and that's a whole other line and process to get through there. And I think that that's just a critical need for us to start supporting this work. And I think that I think it's just across I think it's more of a holistic support that we need. I think there's a critical need as well for competitive faculty salaries. I think that we're seeing a lot. We need to really protect the leaders, thinkers, and professors who are leading our the next generation of scholars through. I think we need to do more research funding. I think that there is a disparity in research about funding for HBCUs that we really need to get a handle on. We need to ensure that HBCUs can retain, their top talent as well. At the same time, I do think that students today are navigating, as well. They're navigating rising tuition costs, housing insecurity, and financial pressure. So scholarships and emergency support funds are also more important now than ever. When I went to school, there was also a very popularized term, which was so popular because so many students were facing it, which was being homeless at Howard, #homeless at Howard.
I remember that. Wow. Yeah.
And that was a very common thing of a lot of students having so many housing issues, having so many issues with being able to afford their tuition, being able in the final years of college, being able to afford and finish up, but the financial costs are looming on them so hard. It's just GoFundMe's just back to back. And it's just and folks just constantly asking for help. And homeless at Howard became a very popularized term when I was specifically in school, with so many students needing just general support. I think we can all agree that HBCUs have and are doing more with less. And we are educating a disproportionate number of Black doctors, lawyers, engineers, thinkers, educators, and leaders while operating with significantly fewer resources than many predominantly white institutions. And I think that in the 21st century, equity in funding isn't just about fairness. It's about unlocking the full potential of institutions that already outperform expectations.
I couldn't agree more, which is
Ooh,
why
you ate that up. That is so real.
Yeah. And it highlights like the glitz and glam that we see on social media oftentimes, like just showing how amazing HBCUs are, which they are, but also there are real challenges that are preventing students from having the type of educational experience they deserve. Because no one should be thinking about like housing, right? Or like somebody coming into their dorm while they're also trying to learn. We already have these societal barriers, and that's now being coupled with that, which is why I think the MacKenzie, donations are even more significant. And we mentioned earlier that a lot of these dollars are unrestricted, and that ideally universities, HBCUs will use these dollars to improve the conditions specifically for their students. And to your point, also create credible and also competitive salaries for us to get more professors and retain the type of talent that will make us competitive against other universities, especially now when we know more Black students are turning away from PWIs in light of the Trump administration and are returning back to their roots of HBCUs. And if I have a child, that's HBCUs will be something that I would highly encourage. So for you, I'm curious, like
returning home.
Yeah, like you're returning home.
Especially even too, like we see, like we want to uplift the Coretta Scott, even though she did attend an HBCU, we want to uplift, the Chadwick Bosemans and the Felicia. We want to uplift these folks, but at the same time, even Chadwick Boseman needed support when he went to Howard University. He had mentorship and support that helped him financially be able to move forward in this way. We love when we see these names in the big lights, but really, our students and our youth need more support than what they're receiving. And we see what happens when we give them that support. We talk, like Chadwick Boseman has received support before that's been really influential in the expansion of his career. And there are other folks alike like him who have received support, financial support like that have, and then we see the potential and we see where these folks can go, So I really do resonate with that. Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Yeah. So when you think about the fact that not every not everyone tuning in has the billions of dollars that MacKenzie Scott has. But we
Right.
all have a role to play in protecting and furthering the legacy of HBCUs. How can the average person support these universities?
So how would the average person support these colleges and universities?
Mhm.
I think for one, I want to say that every single person has a role to play in sustaining and strengthening HBCUs. It's not just a problem for Black communities. In fact, I think white people owe us more money. I feel like that's the very
Say
least
that.
thing you can do.
Period.
Support doesn't have to start at the $1 million level though as well. Small consistent donations, monthly gifts, scholarship contributions, like even right now Homeless at Howard is still going through. We see instances where where student alumni associations or student associations will post like these. We have about 50 students who need financial funding right now. Any donation that you can give will help. And it really adds up in powerful ways when even like $10 or $20 a month can really support with a student's books, meals, or transportation. I think that we really need folks to really also advocate by pushing for more equitable funding at the local, state, and federal levels. And I think that means paying attention to more legislation, showing up to vote, and really holding our leaders more accountable for how education dollars are allocated. I think is really important in this season. I don't think that right now, especially in these turbulent times, we're holding our leaders to the flame enough. We need more advocacy from our leaders that we've maybe I didn't vote for some of these folks, but for these folks who are now here. Another major way I think is to support is, of course, through visibility, sharing our achievements, uplifting the good that we are doing, amplifying student success stories, and also as well, the student hardship stories as well. I think attending events, homecomings, and fundraisers, and encouraging the young people to really consider HBCUs as viable, powerful options, I think are so imperative in this work. Mentorships, opportunities, and career pipelines are also critical. I've worked with quite a few organizations who have HBCU fellowship programs and opportunities to really bring more HBCU students directly into the pipeline, because we're also seeing in today's economy issues, with folks being able to land jobs, especially after they graduate. And I think that we have to protect our young people that have done the work of getting their degrees and help them in getting into the working field as well. I think that protecting the legacy of HBCUs, it's not one specific way that you do it. I think it's about collective responsibility. And it's not also about preserving history. It's also about preserving our future. And it's about investing in our future leaders in these institutions that continue to produce even without.
That's such a great point. Like each and every one of us, regardless if we've attended an HBCU, have a responsibility because of the contribution that HBCU students make to our overarching society. But also to your point earlier, yes, hell yes, white people owe us a lot more money, especially in regards to reparations. And that should first go to the HBCUs that are withstanding and upholding a level of educational opportunities for Black students that it would not be possible. We would, as a society, would not be possible without HBCUs, whether or not you attend them. So we definitely have to honor their contributions. I would love eventually for us to do like a deep dive on like, how did HBCUs come about? Like, who were the founding folks? What are some of the barriers they face, especially in the Jim Crow South? I can't imagine. Also, just finding out that one of the original HBCUs was supposed to be in Boston, and Boston like totally rejected that. Blew my mind.
I was just reading about that. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Connecticut. And I was like, white folks were like, no, we don't want Black people over here.
Right. Crazy. Exactly. Crazy. And, I really do commend MacKenzie Scott for what she's doing, but also as well, one part of me is saying, this is what folks should be doing. This, especially what white billionaires should be doing. And with that, like, I really do just kind of say, sometimes in the sense of, I don't want to over congratulate for something that should be happening. Yep. I kind of think more white billionaires need to be giving to these causes. I do think that MacKenzie Scott's philanthropy was truly transformative because Giving such large unrestricted gifts to HBCUs, she really has acknowledged that these institutions know exactly what they need and should have the autonomy to decide how to best use these resources. But we need more folks like that, and it shouldn't be a begging game, But that alone was really revolutionary in a philanthropic landscape that often relies on control and restrictions, and also as well in this climate, where we're seeing when supporting Black lives was trendy during the Black Lives Matter movement. And in the late 2010s, it was really trendy. And we saw so many corporations and institutions and funders and donors verbally giving their, we support Black liberation. We are against police brutality and we're so here for the movement. But now we're seeing all of this backpedaling. We're seeing all of this backpedaling that's happening with Trump coming through. And we're seeing that it was very performative. It was we're just moving with the times. And it's really disheartening to see. So to see folks who during these times are still standing strong with us is definitely that I do want to give MacKenzie and other philanthropic donors. And, there is a Black philanthropic sector that exists, right? And I also wanted to give those folks, those are the people that are really on the ground doing the work. They are telling folks like MacKenzie Scott, how do you allocate your money? What are the best ways to allocate your funds and that best support the Black community? And these are the people that are really doing the work, the folks within the Black philanthropic sector. They're doing the research that we're talking about that we right now don't see. In fact, I do want to uplift one research, that one report that was specifically uplifted and released recently, which is called Philanthropy in HBCUs, Foundation Funding to Historically Black Colleges and Universities, that was released by AbbVie, which is kind of, if you haven't heard about it before, AbbVie is like the Association of Black Foundation Executives, and they were founded in the 1970s, 1971, and they are kind of the home place for Black philanthropy in the Black philanthropic sector, and they are bridging the gaps across the pipeline through job opportunities, through research. They have a membership base of over 200 plus philanthropic organizations, funders, and donors who are all dedicated to the collective investment and liberation of Black communities and making responsible investments for Black communities. And I think that, in this report, like one thing that I really want to highlight is that they really talked about how philanthropic dollars has really decreased over time. Like they say in their documentary that in 2002, HBCUs collectively received, around $65 million in philanthropic support. But by 2019, that number decreased 30%. And also when we're also considering, things in regards to inflation, this decrease was even more drastic, with HBCUs, receiving less than half of the philanthropic support in 2019 in total as they had in 2002. So I really, and of course, I'll leave the link for that report and the link for these resources in the chat. But these numbers don't lie. We really do need more support, and we know where and how to spend our money that's given to us. So I do want to give MacKenzie her recognition while also still sending a call to the rest of the philanthropic sector and corporations and all these folks who at one point in time did say like, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter. We are still here doing this work and we still need your support. And I think that we need to hold these folks to the fan of, you were with us previously, with the unfortunate passings of Trayvon Martin and all these folks. Where are you now? And we need you now. Like right now, we're seeing
where are you now?
Where are you now? We're seeing now Target and other folks that are taking away their DEI campaign, their DEI work, and all that. And it's just, this is the time for you to stand strong with us, not for you to shy away and be scared about the Trump administration and scared about, the rise and the unabashed, rise of white supremacy. This is the time, history will look back on this moment. And this is when we need you to stand with us. Because one thing that I do want to give MacKenzie Scott her recognition for is that through her powerful donations, she is through these donations, you're allowing us to eliminate debt, stabilize operations, of course, invest in our infrastructure, expand student aid, strengthen long-term sustainability. But even beyond the dollars, she's really sending us a powerful message of HBCUs are worthy of bold investment, not just survival funding. And I think that that's really important to also hear too, how funders think of giving. I think it shows that when you invest with trust, instead of like micromanagement and things like that, like when you invest in us we can move faster, we can serve more students, and we can create a deeper impact. And I think that the large donations and the level of support and autonomy that she's giving to HBCUs is very important. And it doesn't just change budgets, it changes momentum. And I think that we need more folks to really follow in her path.
It's such a great point, man. This is a prime example why we need so much more time to talk about these things, because there's so many points of entry. Right? To your point, MacKenzie is being advised by a wide range of stakeholders who are influencing her decisions, especially in regards to like HBCUs, but also honoring those who have continued to stand beside, uphold, and invest in HBCUs for such a long time is how we got here, and why it made HBCU such a valuable investment because of the legacy that is created, and also the possibility of what's next for the current students. So thank you so much for joining us in this episode and for sharing so many good nuggets and comments that hopefully our listeners learned something. Where can folks continue to stay connected with your work and learn more?
Thank you so much. So yes, you can feel free to stay connected with my work. I do post and support national advocacy campaigns on social media at @FreckledRose_. Once again, if you are interested in the reports that I've kind of name dropped in today's interview, I will be dropping that and leaving that with today's wonderful hosts for you guys to share. And I really do just want to encourage folks to really start looking into the Black philanthropic sector, because we have thought leaders. We have such brilliant leaders within the Black philanthropic sector that if you are a funder, donor, if you are within or if you want to support the liberation through philanthropy, the liberation of Black people through philanthropy, we have, as you said, we have the stakeholders, the leaders, the brilliant thought leaders here that can tell you what we need. Black people know what we need. And I do just want to just uplift that. And I do want to just say that, if you do want to reach out, I am at @FreckledRose_ on Instagram if you'd like to reach out. And I'm happy to also provide any further resources.
Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
You,
bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
I need that skincare routine.
What a good conversation. I mean, she is just proof of what HBCUs can create and build and make possible. So shout out to her. So glad that she got to be a part of this. And we're going to be back after this short break. You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network. Don't go too far.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of Black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased Black voters. Their goal, erase Black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. Today's conversation has been such a reminder that in order to keep us safe, we also not only need to invest in the legacy of Black history, but also the future of Black futures. Let me do that one more time.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. Today's conversation has been such a reminder that we need to, in order to keep us all safe, we need to invest not just in Black history, but also in Black futures.
Yeah, that is 100% right. If you want to dig deeper into this topic more generally, Brooke shared that report that you can follow via ABFE, and you can check out their website to learn more about how you can support HBCUs. Also, grab the book HBCU, The Power of Historically Black Colleges and Universities. This book came out last year. It is so thorough and a really great deep dive into just why we need to protect these HBCUs. And again, find the HBCU nearest you and show up for them in any way that you can.
Yep. You've been watching The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. Until next time, stay conscious, stay connected, and keep listening.